All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order I have 6:32, so that will be the call to order. We are being broadcast live and will be recorded for rebroadcast. I don't believe anyone else is recording the meeting. They know. All right. So we met about a month ago and we had quite a lengthy discussion. Actually, I guess I should follow the agenda and stick to it. Actually, the first thing that Matt had put on the agenda for me was the open space plan update. Do we have some things that you'd like to talk about?
I do. Thank you. So, as Eric and I have been providing updates to the committee, one of the things I've been talking about consistently is a massive data table that's been no fun to update. So I brought in its progress to date just to kind of give you guys an idea of what was necessary. And I hope I didn't just close it, but I did. So the existing data that's in the open space plan was missing 4 categories when we submitted it. And those categories are current use, condition, recreation potential, oh, there's even more, type of grant, if any, used to purchase or renovate the property, and public access. So we had to recreate or revisit every parcel and come up with that data. Thanks to the work of the committee this year, the recreation potential one was very helpful. And so we were able to fill in that category. The current use and condition had to be rewritten on all of them to try to limit condition to kind of a one-word answer. Like, for example, one of them's back jog golf course, you can limit the condition to operational. And if you have one that's a wooded lot, you can say that it's a wooded lot. It's vacant land under the current use. So we had to update all that. The funding sources is the last step that I have. I'm not sure what's been funded through grant, purchased through grant or not. That information is unbeknownst to me at this time. And then public access is not just standard, are you allowed to go on the property, but it's a component of being able to access the property for all folks, ADA compliant as well. So a lot of the ones that are yeses are some of the already established places like Franklin Field or the Auburn High School, just as examples. So one like the Gilbert Stockwell property trails, that doesn't count because it's not ADA compliant. So in addition to that, we have to update the managing agency of all of the parcels and who is responsible for them. For example, those little slivers of land that are like 1/10 of an acre or 1/100th of an acre that are just hiding throughout areas. We put them underneath
Highway, park.
Yeah, we put them under DPW.
Yeah.
There are a handful of others like Rotary Beach we put under the health department because if anything's going to happen there, someone's going to have to talk to them first. There were a lot of conservation parcels based on the use codes, so we updated those too. The use code itself is an assessor's code, and part of the notes in here was that we had to provide a key or a table that describes what each of the use codes are. So using some neat little Excel tricks, I was able to put a use code description next to the code so that they're a lot easier to understand. So now when the review authority gets this and they see use code 9030, now they know it's a vacant parcel owned by the town. Some of the other ones, as an example, might be a commercial parcel owned by the town. They have a different use code. That means there's a structure on it versus something that's owned by the schools, something that's owned by or under Board of Selectmen control, and a couple of them, oddly enough, are under the police station control. And there was some of them are tax titles owned by the town. You know what this is? And there's several different use classifications, so we had to be clear on those. And then the other thing that we had to add, which is just grammatical, it's just time consuming, is the zoning. We can't just use RA, RB, or RC without providing a key and a table, so we had to change them all to residential A, residential B, write them all out. So we're about 90% there. This table's just about done. Thankfully, it only has to be done for the town-owned lands and not the state-owned and private-owned and all that stuff, so we only have to do it for this part of it, but it took a long time. And the only portion left, in my opinion, is the funding source to find out if we received grants or are operating under grants to either purchase it or maintain it. So keeping in mind that we're dealing with November of 2014, so I can't add the Blackstone Heritage Carter for the walking trail at the Packers because technically it didn't happen. I'm trying not to update everything Because if I add the South Hall Road property acquisition, then I gotta change all the maps. I gotta change everything, and all those maps are created by CMRPC, and then
Right.
be starting all over again. So I had to keep it 2014, much to my dismay, because I like having updated
I
data.
know. It seems kind of crazy not to do it. though.
Right, me too, but it would
Do we
be
have the ability to produce maps like CMRPC did?
not without their data layers and what version of GIS they use to create those, because if it's been updated since and they haven't updated the data layer, it's probably useless now. So going back and doing that seemed like it would take a lot longer than just provide the data that we have. So that part, number 8, is about 90% done until I get the grant information. That's the one that's taking the longest. So
Wouldn't you put Camp Gleason under that too? Board of Health?
it's in there.
Okay.
Yep, Gleason
Because
and
you
Rory.
Rory.
Yeah, they're both in there.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, so some of the other ones that I got done last meeting, I'll just review that, was there was a Division of Fish Relations and Wildlife section that needed to be included. We have that. We also updated the vegetation, those towns, forest and land, and general inventory. And there's one item that calls for a section of public shade trees, which we've never cataloged before, so I just had to put language in the plan that says we don't have one. Otherwise, they were wondering why it was absent. So we're at the point where we've provided enough here that we're almost to the point where we can submit it and see where we're at so far. We can't expect it to be perfect the first time we send it in, I don't think. I'd like to see if it comes back with limited comments for what we put together so far, because these 12 comments that they had for conditional approval were very intensive. So we,
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
When you say public shade trees, what precisely do you
these would
mean?
be trees in the right of way that are, or maybe within the frontage of lots that aren't split, that are supposed to be providing
open
shade over
lots,
sidewalks and
or-
stuff.
Anywhere?
No, they're, it'd be cataloged for common areas, right-of-ways, roads, streetscapes. There's different ways to
Like the
consider
Veterans
these.
Memorial Corridor?
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's a good example. No. But we've never had one cataloged. Haven't really seen an example other than when I interned in the city of Westfield and I had to go along each of the
And write down what
treescapes
they
and
were.
measure them myself and do all that. But yeah, that was some time ago.
Well, would the Veterans Memorial Corridor not count because it's along a state road?
Okay. It's still
It
in
would
town.
count.
Yeah.
But how many trees out there? Does that mean trees are they planted?
So it's
Seen it.
it's simple as enough as writing that it could be in our 7-year plan to have that done.
Like the little, in the parks along the roadway,
Mm.
they have shade trees in them?
Yep. Shade trees at schools. Anything that's
Garden Park has a few.
Yeah. Yep. So
Okay.
that's just one example of things that we don't have, but it was one they were specific about.
Did I hear you say you have to go measure them?
I did. That was 9 years ago, but I had to measure them one way.
Oh,
Use the
physically measure them.
Yeah.
Wow.
try to rough
They
estimate
change
of
every
how.
year. They grow.
Yeah. Yeah, like their species, roughly how old they are based on their width, and a handful of things. Yeah.
Just at a certain point in time, that's what you have.
It's wanting a lot of detail.
Yeah, well, that was back then. I'm not sure what it is now. It could be less detailed, but the only sections we have left are the community goals. We figured that once we got the first 8 things in, we could try to reassess the goals to see if any other stuff's been met since then. And also updating the 7-year action plan as a part of that. We're almost there.
Are you still targeting to finish this spring?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the turnaround time will be once you send it back in?
I don't, just because I didn't send in the first one. I'm not sure. I think we might have sent it in after a town meeting vote. Could be wrong.
I'm not sure. Can't
I'm
remember.
not either.
It
But
could be May.
the last drafts in our database show September, and then we received the response from the state in November.
2 months later. If I'd have had to guess, to tell you the truth, I would have thought it was longer.
Me too.
Well, that's good. So, keep all that handy because you'll probably need it for the master plan.
Yep.
And I know it's very tedious and time consuming, but still, don't you feel good that that table's done?
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of information in there.
Yeah, I've been quietly keeping a more up-to-date one in a different file so we can use that towards the master plan instead of the 2014 one that reflects
Right.
what was here. So,
Right.
yeah.
But at least you've got that, and then you can just update that to include the South Old Road property and
Right.
all the things that have happened
That's
in the
right.
last couple of years.
I started adding the South Hall Road, and then I realized how much more that would include. I had to change so much language, maps, etc.
Yeah, but
That we weren't an overhaul almost the whole thing. So I just didn't have the data layers to update the maps. So we should
how
keep
long
that
do you
off
think
now.
the master plan's going to take to finish? A couple of years?
Yep. Probably. Good meeting last meeting. I think the committee's moving in a good direction. We got some tasks lined up. I'm anxious to hear what each of the committee members have for feedback. Be nice.
It's more difficult, I know, because, you know, when I was on the master plan committee, we had paid consultant to help do
That's right.
a lot of the work.
That's right.
You know, CMRPC did all the drafting and the gathering of data.
That's right.
We just had to review it.
That's right. Well, we're fortunate that Upton was approved for community compact this last month for an economic development section and a housing section, and both
Yes.
those are components of the master plan. So if we get technical assistance, funding,
That would
if
be a
we
big
get funding,
help.
we'll probably put it towards hiring a
Yeah.
consultant, but that would be a huge boost for us.
Definitely. I remember before, because we belong to CMRPC, we get, the planning board gets 24 hours of technical assistance a year, and we use that. But I understand that it's not available.
It could be available, it's just CMRPC is still working on some projects from last year with us.
Well, hopefully the grants come through from the compact community thing,
Yep.
so that'll be a big help. Does anybody have any input, questions, concerns, comments? No?
You have update, like, what's mass, like, do the master plan have a goal, or like just keep on different projects, huh?
Yeah, through the chair, they assess, there's 9 different sections of it, and of the 6 members present, they each took on an assignment to get started. I started by updating all of the recommendations at the end of each section because some of the goals have been met, some things have been accomplished. So this way we can trim down some things and at least show a light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that some things don't have to be revisited, so that's good. But setting new goals, community workshops are going to be coming up soon. We're going to have public forums to gather information too. There's so many parts. But
If I could just comment, first of all, I really appreciate the work that you and Eric are doing. It's great. I think that the sad thing in the end is that we're going to have an open space plan that's not current. And, it's sort of like we're one more time behind the 8 ball. We're trying to do something that's, it's really not accurate and it's not true. But that's the bureaucracy of state government. So I guess that's, I don't know.
I think if I hear you correctly, although this specific 2014 open space plan is still going to reflect 2014 conditions, the open space plan element within the master plan is going to be up to date.
oh, sure. And just to further qualify the open space rec plan, the information is still consistent with the goals that were set in 2014 plan. It's just a handful of parcels or acquisitions that were done in town have been done since this was submitted. Just namely the acquisition of South Hall Road and then the sale of the 121 Southbridge Street, the commercial property that we used to
Right.
have. Those are just 2 things that no longer show up in our town inventory.
Right.
And that's kind of the only thing that's going to be absent here because of the transfer of ownership. That's it.
But at least when it comes time to update the separate open space plan, then we can use the element that was in the master plan that was updated to be the basis of
Yes.
that.
Yep, they can piggyback off one another.
Right. So it's not all for naught, really. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you for all that update. I'm glad to see it coming to fruition. Okay, so as we move along here, First of all, I apologize to the committee. I don't know if you read my email from the weekend where I sent you the agenda. Mr. Benoit called me last week because I forgot about posting the agenda, and he was kind enough to do an agenda for us and get it posted in timely fashion. And to that end, until I was talking to him about where did we leave our last meeting, because of course Eric was here at the last meeting and not Matt, I kind of had forgotten, to tell you the truth, that we had decided at the last meeting that we were done and that we were going to draft a letter, or Eric was going to draft a letter that I was supposed to review to the town manager, telling her what we had done to date, where we stood, and basically asking her about our idea about looking at sections of the town in a more, really drilling down and getting more detail on them, and asking her about making specific recommendations on them. The committee wanted to look at the Packagug Hill area first, in that we own Pappas Rec, what's left of Packagug Meadows, the South Old Road property, and the Packagug Golf Course. John's question was, has anybody ever really taken a good-sized scale map of that hill and looked at what the town owns, what else might be contiguous, open parcels, and the parcels that the town owns, are they connected? How can they be connected? What can they be linked? How can they be linked together? And really kind of like focus on one part of town. And then the other issue that we wanted to know, was that we were going to put in that letter that didn't get written. If some of the town-owned parcels that we've looked at, that we've suggested might be suitable for building lots, that might be saleable, could the money from the sale be used as revenue earmarked specifically to acquire, maintain, upgrade the other open parcels that we might want to put some passive recreation uses on? Could we use them, like if we did trails, for example, not only have you got to create them, you got to maintain them. So could the monies be utilized to develop a passive recreation use and maintain it? Could that money be dedicated for that? That was a question that we wanted to ask the town manager. Am I restating that?
Yeah, that's right.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. So anyways, that was kind of where we were at. There was one discussion also, one of the charts, one of the tables had parcels that could be possible sales parcels or possible recreation parcels. And Mr. Anderson had brought that up as the fact that he felt, and the committee agreed, that they'd like to have the parcels designated as it's one or the other, but not both, right? If either it's going to be something for sale or it's going to be something for recreation, but it can't be both. So that was kind of, when we were going to send along what we had. Now, I learned from you that the town manager apparently had inquired about where we were at the other day. And we didn't have any communication about this, but from what I understand, you sent tables to her, and I'm not sure if it was like the last thing that you sent, or what.
Sure, I can elaborate. So, unbeknownst to me, the happenings of the committee at the last meeting, the town manager needed her to submit to the Board of Selectmen an update on her goals for the year. And one of her goals was to establish the Open Space Committee and have us review vacant town-owned parcels in town, which we've accomplished. We're almost accomplished. So we tabled them. We've got through all except for the non-conforming ones. We haven't fine-tuned our recommendations yet as a committee. So what I submitted to her were these tables with the draft watermark on it. I'll show you what I sent these in with the draft mark on it to her, with explaining that these are by no means completed. They're not final, and just let her know that the progress has been made to this point. Now, she hadn't seen any of these tables to date at all,
Right.
that we've gotten this far. She was very impressed with the work that the committee's been doing thus far. So, just further clarifying that, knowing that the committee is not finished with their recommendation yet, but this is where it's come so far.
Okay. So, I don't know whether you had discussion with her because, again, there hadn't been any communication between us and I hadn't spoken to the town manager. I think the committee wants to know, there's some, I don't know, we're not clear, I guess is the best way to put it, as to whether the selectmen wanted more specific detail than just this could be sold or this should be open. You know, the committee wants to know, can we broaden our charge to be able to look at sections of town more closely and make specific recommendations on ideas for some type of passive recreational activity. Am I?
Yeah, yes.
So that's basic, and the money issue too is a question. I don't know, so I don't know, given that you've already had a dialogue with her, I didn't really know if the committee wanted to work through the planner and ask him to communicate the questions to the town manager.
Do you think we should have a list? Make up a list, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, I put in the minutes basically what the motion was at the last meeting. I think that's basically whether it comes from Eric or Matt or me or the committee or whomever. I think those are what we want. Those are the things we want to know. What was in the motion. So I don't know if they could just cut and paste it out of the minutes and ask the town manager. These are our questions.
Yeah, recommendation, I guess. So, because we have the data separated, or at least categorized in a manner that's manageable,
Yep.
you can work this data to group them by map.
By Matt? A map.
Yep, by
Okay.
map number. You can work the data to group it by acreage or really anything that you need, but I suggest that if you're thinking about kind of a general area, you mentioned Packagug Hill, and I think the committee also recommended to Eric about a possible visual map showing where these parcels are within
Yeah,
reach.
they wanted to see like a map.
Yeah, so if we can, I think it's easy to narrow that down. You can see which of the assessor's map numbers are on Packagug Hill, and you can pull those, extract those from this data, create a data layer doing it. I think that's something we can do. That would be a neat way to do it. So, and I just want to go back to something I believe you said. I want to make sure I heard this correctly. So, if there's a use that's a potential for residential development, we do not want to see those as recreational potentials at the same time. Is that my understanding?
Well, I think, for example, one of the things we talked about was Rotary Beach. Because there's enough frontage on Rochdale Street where you could have a couple of house lots. You know, and they could be A&R lots. You know? But the question is, if, you know, I think it's on the list of, it could be a beach again, or it could be sold.
Right, that's what I think we put on. Potential development if the town does not pursue Rotary Beach.
Right, so I think you know, and there too, that parcel, you know, across the street.
The parking lot?
Yeah.
Right, if Rotary Beach is never going to be redone, then there's no point in keeping that
Right.
property.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So that in an instance like that, where not sure if it goes one way or the other, you have one that's potential for residential, but it also has recreation potential. So that's kind of one that's on the fence. But
Yeah.
some of the other ones, I think I agree with. I mean, we had one of them we were looking at that was 295 Leicester Street, 5.5 acres on Leicester Street, where the recommendation was subdivision or fields. So I had them as both. So I just wasn't sure where to put kind of
Or
the
do
ones
you
that are on
think
the
maybe
fence.
we should, I don't know, maybe we should,
Is any way we have, like the Board of Health look and see if they couldn't reopen Brewery? Oh, parking's a big problem.
Through the chair, I know the Board of Health has done their studies in the past, and there's been a high demand to try to pursue those, not just for Rotary, but for
Camp
police
Gleason.
also.
Yeah, can't believe it's
Yeah.
parking. That's what the
I
actual
think
site.
the consistent issue with both sites is turbidity, the clarity of the water, because there's not enough movement. A lot of the sand buildup for Addy Pond and the Route 20 is a major cause to that. But also with the Stoneville side, same issue. There's not a lot of continuous flow to make the water a little more clear. I know that was a continuous thing, but if they're looking at doing future testing, it's certainly worth asking that.
I wonder what caused the changes. I mean, 'cause years ago, I mean, did you?
Tom?
I mean, you've lived in Auburn all your life. Did you go to swimming lessons
Not lessons, but I've been there.
to Gleason?
Yeah.
So it's changed over the years, obviously.
I just think it's a Department of Public Health requirement.
Mm.
Some regulations that may have changed over time, because that, I mean, you couldn't see all the kippers around you when you were swimming in Gleason.
Oh, really? Years ago. Oh.
That's just how it was.
Oh, so there's just more regulation now.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to swim there, think nothing of it.
Yeah,
All places.
exactly.
What's
Did you
swim
get ear
lessons?
infections or anything?
I don't
Don't
remember.
know. It's too bad that they couldn't use, Gleason, because you've got a building there, you've got parking.
Mhm.
It's just kind of a shame.
Mhm.
So do you still, I mean, there are some parcels like those that, I mean, they could be either or depending on circumstances. So I don't know if you want to call them out, but.
I think there were a handful of them. So I could sort them that way. I mean, one of them on there is Palacial, and we know that's not recreation potential.
No, we're not selling that.
I suppose that there are some recreational uses. We're not talking about soccer fields or anything.
No.
We're talking about like dirt biking.
No,
Maybe not
walking
even
trails.
that. I'm just saying that's probably an example of one.
I don't think they would support,
Right.
you couldn't on that cap, could you? No.
Probably not. So that's probably one that can be changed to a no. It's pretty obvious, I think. But some of the others, sorry, this is a...
There may be a handful that are definitely either or.
Right.
When I spoke of this, when I was looking at this chart, I was like, how can you have it listed as, open space, or looking at it as recreation use and for sale?
Mm.
It just didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time.
Right, but in the case of the Rotary Beach property, I mean, if that's never going to be a beach again because of the turbidity issues, then
Right.
maybe there's another opportunity to generate some revenue. And that's a situation where you've got a public way, you've got plenty of frontage to have conforming lots. They'd be A&R lots, right?
Potentially, yeah. At least on the parking side. Yeah.
Right. But on the other hand, I mean, if there's there's been talk about redoing that beach since I've lived in Auburn.
I think somebody should really make a decision on that. Who I don't know who it is, but I know Parks and Rec looks at it. They want to move forward, and then there's studies, and it just seems like in the 22 years I've lived in town, the same thing. Every time you turn around, there's another. Somebody brings that up, and it goes nowhere. So, in this situation, especially if it can't be developed, period. It makes sense to maybe sell some property as long as we can target those funds
Right.
into
Rather,
building and maintaining other open space parcels.
right.
That makes some sense.
So I think that's,
And
those seem to be the pending issues,
Sure.
I can't imagine, I would think that there would be support for letting us examine things more closely, I would think, but.
Yeah, so, if I may, sorry.
Yeah.
Regarding, I know it's kind of we're asking the town manager if the money from the sales of vacant parcels will be used to develop and maintain
Right.
other recreational uses. I think it's going to be dependent on what those parcels are and who has control of those parcels. So in an instance where it's under control of Board of Selectmen, we might say group all of the properties that are under their control, review those and see if any of those are susceptible to that sort of development. Or if it's, because I don't think we're going to be making that recommendation for anything that has a conservation restriction, so
No.
those could be omitted from that. So now that we have the use code description really ironed out, I think it's easy to do that. A lot of the ones that are just vacant, owned by town, are under control of
Right.
the town, and so it doesn't
Right.
have a
Like
restriction.
tax
on it, so-
title land, for example.
Right, exactly. Yep. And there's a
Obviously
handful.
not the Conservation Commission, ones that have got, you know,
Mhm.
any kind of conservation restriction
Right.
on them.
That's right.
You can't.
That's right. So maybe I could just group this for now, just to look at it. Look at the ones that are under the Board of Selectmen control, so we know what we're dealing
The
with.
ones we take for tax title, who do they go under? Selectmen?
It's just town.
Just the town.
Yeah, that's right. So I've been writing the town manager in cases like that. Each one's going to be case by case. It's Rotary Beach, in an instance like that, town manager's probably going to defer to the Board of Health for their recommendations. So we could just put code enforcement, I'm sure.
Well, is there a process, like, if the town takes something for tax title, for example, say someone wanted to purchase the property, or say maybe the person that lost it to tax title, maybe their situation has changed and now they can buy it back.
Sure.
Is there a process to go through for someone in that situation, and who makes the decision on whether they can
I think it's
buy
a
it back?
selectman.
I haven't seen the final decision happen. I've only seen the information gathering based on some public inquiries so far. So different, depending case by case, and every one that I've seen so far has been different. Well, just as an example, Meadow Street was one that the town had to buy because it was a house, a hoarding case where the person had to be moved out, and now the town owns the property, but they also own a little parcel behind it that's a wetlands parcel. So it makes sense to combine the two of those packages before you try to sell it. So each one's going to be different, but the process I've seen so far is when a petition goes to the town manager for an inquiry from a citizen or landowner or someone who's trying to buy the property, and then the town manager's been asking folks to do homework on the parcel, see what its economic viability is for a sale to the resident, does the town still want to use it for any uses for any reason, and then gather all that information before responding back to the citizen. That's all I've seen so far, but I've been to only one tax title meeting, so it's just to review the inventory.
I'm just curious as to how that
Me too.
would go. I know years ago, selectmen, if somebody was about to lose their property to tax title, they could have a hearing before the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, as far as when the property
If they're
is
about
bought
to
by the
lose
town?
it. Mhm.
I haven't experienced that yet.
But I don't know I don't know. I've never been through it, so.
Yeah.
All right, so how do you want to leave this? Do you want Matt to communicate with the town manager on what our issues are?
That's fine by
Yes,
me.
yeah, yes.
He already has the dialogue.
He's got this,
They've been talking about some of this stuff, so let's take it to the next level. I don't really care if it's in the form of a letter.
Just to digress, it's sort of the table based on what's under selectmen control.
Okay.
I was going to name a couple examples. Well, one of them is the Boy Street Todd Park.
okay,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
One of them is it's 347th Street. That's got to be the parking lot intended basketball court
Oh,
right near Drury Square.
Holston Court, probably.
We got parking lot and tennis court. It's got to be Drury Square.
Yeah, it's
Hillside Cemetery, the one. There's a couple pumping stations, Franklin Field, and
Franklin Field is on.
Franklin Park, yeah.
Yeah.
And you get in the park, oh, they changed, that's right, they moved everything around. And then the charter,
and then there's a large parcel of land off of Drake Court that we reviewed in one of our early meetings. That's landlocked. It was a New England power easement or something, or state owned, and then it was given to the town, but it's 200 acres of what can you do with it?
Right, unless you bought some adjoining property or something.
Right. So it's just a handful of them there. Some of them are drainage areas. Not their own here. Just some to name a few.
All right, so we're going to leave it that way then and let Matt communicate with the town manager
yes. that
and
sounds
relay
good.
our points in from the minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
Any
Any what?
thoughts on the tables and further updates to that based on property review? Or I'm not at this time making a recommendation of these data tables on behalf of the committee recommendations, right? These aren't final yet, from what I can tell.
I think the sorting of the parcels that we looked at is that those decisions are done. But I think if we're gonna, are we gonna decide on more detail?
Okay.
Are we gonna make specific recommendations?
Okay.
And of course, South Old Road, if you remember,
Mm.
when we made our recommendations to the selectmen
Pending.
last fall,
Yep.
we asked in our letter if
That's right.
we be given the opportunity at a future date
Hmm?
to make some specific recommendations. And I think if we're gonna look at, obviously if we're gonna look at Packagug Hill, then that would be part of the deal anyway.
That's right. I've left, through the chair, left South Old Roads empty, so they're still
Yeah.
waiting orders from the committee.
So,
Is there a date that they want some information?
Not that I'm aware
That's
of yet.
good.
yeah, I wasn't aware that, you know,
Just wondering.
I didn't know that we had any specific timetable to do this, but.
I mean,
Right.
it seems to me, the selectmen asked us to do this review, which we've done.
Yep.
I'm not saying that it's 100%, but it's a pretty
Right,
good stab at it.
right. We sorted it
Where else
out.
we take things, I don't think we need a directive as a committee. We can I think we can chart our own course if we feel that there's something that's necessary to do. I mean, the charge to in our mission statement, all that stuff is pretty general. So
Right.
I
so-
think we really have some latitude there if we feel like, as I do with the South Old Road and Packagug, is, let's look at this thing in mass and see where we're at. Because there are going to be needs in the town, and maybe some of that will occur there, maybe not. That's my approach to it.
Yeah, and that's why I think, because the charge was pretty broad, I just want to make sure that, I don't want to be stepping on anyone's toes.
Sure.
I want to just make sure that we're, in line with what they're thinking, so. I mean, like I said, I can't imagine that there would be any opposition. I mean, we're volunteers giving our time, so I don't think it would be an issue, and I'm glad to hear that you think that you can do a map.
I think we can do several maps, actually. I don't want to over commit to any of these, but it almost seems like if we have the data, we can create an attribute table to make layers almost out of the 5 tables that we made. I think you'd be showing the overview of the town from 30,000 feet. You can see the ones that are to remain as open space, those for potential residential development, just seeing where those clusters are.
Yep.
Might be interesting.
And then you could separate it up into pieces,
Mhm.
so we could focus on
Mhm.
parts.
I think so.
All right, then, why don't we leave that? We'll let you follow through on that.
Okay.
Hopefully you do a better job than Eric and I did.
In Eric's defense, they did have the Green Community grant due.
No,
for all
I
the
know. Well, I
repairs
didn't,
from
I
the
forgot.
boiler and the police station, so he's been scrambling like a madman.
Well, he's not here 40 hours a week
That's
either,
right.
so.
He's done a wonderful job on that. We got it all in, so now we're eligible for the next round. So
Good.
it was very good news.
And we'll get this in, and you'll get the master plan done, and you'll get the energy thing done, and you'll get...
So
And you
the-
just, and
the-
we'll be finding you, sleeping on a cot in the other room.
So like a good 3-year plan. It's probably accurate.
Okay, all right, so I guess we're pretty much at a point here where I think that's our goal, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
And South Old Road, we're just gonna keep that for the future, people to talk about. Public comment, and I apologize because we had decided we were gonna put public comment at the beginning of the agenda and I forgot. Is there any public comment?
No, there is not. I was curious what you were going to talk about with South Old Road. That's why I should.
Okay. So the next regular meeting, do we want to schedule one the first Monday in April? Pending the outcome of Matt's discussion with the town manager?
April 4th.
I think we should,
Yeah.
but I think Matt needs to advise us if you're ready for that meeting.
Right.
Whatever number of days before the meeting, you can let us know.
Right. Because if you're not ready, then
Go to me?
we'll just wait. We won't have it.
I think it's suitable to at least get feedback from the town manager. I don't know if we'll have all of our maps done, but we could have some.
I don't
And you
want to overburden you either.
Yeah, you got enough to do.
Sorry.
All right, so then we'll leave it kind of open-ended then.
Okay.
We'll try for April 4th if you're not ready. Or if you are, we can have a brief meeting and you can show us what you got.
Yeah, or at least I know I can update,
I mean,
based on the question.
I
from
can't wait
Julia,
to
tell me
see,
idea.
I can't wait to see these maps that we can create.
I think they'll be
Great.
nice.
Do you
Okay.
have any update on paper streets across the Packagug Hill there?
Remember Carpenter Street?
I
Yeah,
don't believe so.
okay.
I haven't heard
Just
anything
wondering.
in a little while.
Okay. All right, so I guess I have the minutes from the February 1st meeting. Tell me where the typos are and I'll fix them.
First line, the biggest paragraph there under review of the town, the committee had completed its review of the T is missing on the left.
Oh, see, spell checks.
Oh yeah, well, see, it's a word, H-E is a word.
Anything else? John said there were couples.
Yeah, I have to read it again here.
I got one. Line 4 in that large paragraph.
Yep.
Third word. I don't believe that's the word you had in mind.
What is it?
Alright. I'm electing to say it.
Line 4, line... I'll have to look at it on my computer.
Expected is what we're looking at.
Okay. Thank you.
Expected, yeah. Oh well, you know. This is what happens when you are last minute Louis. We can fix those.
If we want to go down to line 7, the town owns South Hold Road parcels, not South Old.
It's also town-owned South Pole.
Okay.
I guess I should have taken the time to read it.
Don't worry about it. That's what we're here for.
It was 4:45 when I sent them out. I'm like, I gotta get this out of here. It's just a big paragraph. Not too much.
There we go.
Alright, so is there...
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as corrected.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Alright, so that's it. We have no correspondence, so, do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
Fair enough.
Does the committee have anything else?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.